The story of BRICS is the story of how the world is changing before our eyes. For decades, the global economic and political order was defined by Western institutions like the G7, the IMF, and the World Bank. The United States and Europe set the rules, and the rest of the world played by them. But today, a new force is rising, one that seeks to rewrite those rules and reshape the balance of power. That force is BRICS, an alliance of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And with its recent expansion, bringing in new members like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Ethiopia, and Iran, BRICS is no longer just an economic club. It is becoming a geopolitical heavyweight. At the center of this transformation is India, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, walking a tightrope between East and West, between friends and rivals, between opportunity and risk. To understand India's role in BRICS expansion is to understand how the future of global politics will unfold. When BRICS was first formed, it was seen as a loose grouping of emerging economies, a counterpoint to Western-dominated institutions. But over time, it evolved into something more ambitious, a platform to challenge Western dominance. China and Russia saw it as a tool to create an alternative world order. Brazil and South Africa hoped it would give the global South a greater voice. India, meanwhile, approached BRICS with cautious optimism. It saw value in cooperating with other emerging economies, but it also recognized the risks of aligning too closely with China and Russia. That tension has defined India's approach ever since, using BRICS to expand its influence while preventing it from becoming a China-dominated club. The recent expansion of BRICS marks a turning point. By bringing in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Iran, Egypt, and Ethiopia, the group has suddenly gained immense economic and geopolitical weight. Consider the energy implications alone. With Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Iran, BRICS now controls a massive share of global oil production. This gives it leverage over global energy markets, traditionally dominated by Western interests. Add to this China's hunger for energy, India's growing consumption, and Russia's need to bypass Western sanctions, and you can see why BRICS expansion is being called a game changer. For India, however, this expansion is both an opportunity and a challenge. The opportunity lies in India's ability to use BRICS as a platform to strengthen its ties with the global South. Prime Minister Modi has consistently positioned India as a leader of developing nations, a voice for those who feel sidelined by Western powers. BRICS gives India a chance to showcase that leadership. By working with countries like Egypt and Ethiopia, India deepens its influence in Africa. By engaging with Saudi Arabia and UAE, it strengthens its energy, security, and economic ties. By participating in BRICS discussions on trade, currency, and finance, it can push for reforms that benefit emerging economies. In short, BRICS expansion gives India a bigger stage to project power. But the challenge is equally clear. China is the dominant economic force within BRICS. Russia, weakened by Western sanctions, leans heavily on China. If BRICS becomes a vehicle for Chinese ambitions, India risks being sidelined within an organization it helped build. That is why Modi's strategy has been to carefully balance cooperation with caution. India supports BRICS initiatives like the New Development Bank, but resists moves that could undermine its autonomy. For example, discussions about creating a common BRICS currency to rival the dollar have made headlines. China and Russia are enthusiastic, but India remains skeptical, knowing that such a currency would likely be dominated by China. Instead, India pushes for strengthening local currency trade while preserving flexibility. This balancing act becomes even more complicated when we consider India's ties with the West. In recent years, India has deepened its partnership with the United States, especially through the Quad, which also includes Japan and Australia. The Quad is explicitly aimed at countering China's rise in the Indo-Pacific. At the same time, India maintains strong defense ties with Russia, buying weapons and oil despite Western sanctions. And now, through BRICS, it engages with China in a grouping designed to reduce Western dominance. For some, this looks like contradiction. For India, it is strategy. Modi's vision is one of multi-alignment rather than alignment. Instead of choosing sides, India works with everyone, pursuing its national interest above all. This approach is not without risks. Critics argue that by participating in BRICS, India lends legitimacy to China's global ambitions. Others warn that India's deepening ties with the US could eventually clash with its role in BRICS. Yet so far, Modi has managed to walk this tightrope skillfully. When India hosted the G20 summit, it positioned itself as a bridge between the West and the global South, winning praise from both sides. When BRICS expanded, India welcomed new members while quietly ensuring that decisions did not tilt entirely toward Beijing's agenda. This is the art of strategic balancing, using every platform to advance national interests while avoiding entanglement in other powers' rivalries. What does this mean for the future? First, BRICS is likely to become a stronger voice in global economics. With more members and more resources, it will push harder for reforms in institutions like the IMF and World Bank. It will also promote alternatives, such as the New Development Bank, which already funds projects in emerging economies. Second, energy politics will shift. With Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Iran in the group, BRICS could coordinate on oil and gas policies in ways that challenge Western energy dominance. Third, the dollar's role as the world's reserve currency may face new competition. Even if a common BRICS currency remains unlikely, the group will increasingly trade in local currencies, reducing dependence on the dollar. For India, each of these developments presents both opportunities to expand influence and challenges to safeguard autonomy. India's people must also recognize the stakes. This is not just about abstract geopolitics. It affects energy prices, trade opportunities, jobs, and the future of India's economy. If BRICS succeeds in creating alternative financial systems, Indian companies may find it easier to access funds. If BRICS strengthens trade routes, Indian exporters could benefit. At the same time, if BRICS tilts too far toward China, India could face pressure to compromise its interests. That is why Modi's leadership in this moment is critical. He must ensure that India shapes BRICS, not the other way around. The world, too, is watching. The United States and Europe are uneasy about BRICS expansion. They see it as a challenge to their dominance. Yet they also recognize that India's presence in BRICS prevents it from becoming an anti-West bloc dominated by China and Russia. That is why Western leaders continue to court India, despite differences. For Washington, Delhi is too important to ignore. For Brussels, Delhi is too big to exclude. India's centrality in both Western partnerships and BRICS makes it uniquely powerful, but also uniquely burdened. It must constantly balance competing expectations. As we look ahead, the question is not whether BRICS will matter. It already does. The question is what kind of BRICS it will become. Will it be a platform for China and Russia to challenge the West, or will it be a true voice of the global South, shaped by India's leadership? The answer will depend on how India plays its cards. Modi's ability to navigate this complex landscape could define not just India's future, but the future of global order itself. The story of BRICS is still being written, but one thing is clear. India is not just a participant. It is a decisive player. Its choices, its strategies, and its leadership will shape the outcome of this great geopolitical contest. And in doing so, India has the chance to not only protect its national interests, but also to shape a new world where the voices of the global South are finally heard. This is the hidden power of BRICS expansion, and this is why India's role is so crucial. Because in the battle for influence between East and West, between old powers and rising ones, it is India that stands at the crossroads, holding the balance of the 21st century in its hands.